Well, Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to our final episode of the Bold Vision podcast for 2025. We're closing out two phenomenal seasons, and I want to thank everybody for riding with us, supporting us, and growing with this community. Today, I'm bringing on someone that I truly admire, my friend, my fellow entrepreneur in the Northern Virginia powerhouse, John Hurley of Hurley Homes. John has a deep experience in the real estate world, from remodeling homes to getting them market ready and working closely with contractors and navigating the construction side of the industry. We're also going to look ahead to 2026, where the real estate market is going, mortgage rates, renting versus buying, and everything John sees coming for homeowners and investors. So welcome, John. I'm so excited to have you here on our holiday finale. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I just want to say thank you for having me on. Great to wrap up the end of the year with you. And I know we've talked about this over the past year or so, and I'm happy that we finally able to get down and talk with each other. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Well, I think you picked the best one of all. I mean, to have the final season and it be at Christmas time, I don't think it could have happened more perfectly. So again,
Perfect.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it, John. So, I know that you were born and raised in Northern Virginia. You graduated from Mason University. You're now in the real estate market. So, why don't you just tell everybody watching a little bit about yourself, about your journey, once you graduated college and how you evolved into the real estate market?
Sure. So as you said, I've grown up in the Northern Virginia area. I was born in Washington, D.C., moved to Alexandria, Virginia, and then out to Fairfax Station, Virginia, where I currently live again. So I've grown up here. My entire life has been riding the back roads of Fairfax Station and Clifton. I've built a very diverse network of people and friends over the years. Being here, I went to Robinson High School, just up the street from there, and then went to uh, George Mason after that. Kind of an interesting, weird fact that I don't think a lot of people would say, but their preschool, elementary school, high school, and college were all within a 5 mile radius. So yes, I am here. I am local. I'm not a transplant from some other area. I've been here since day one. So after college, I took a job at a brokerage in Washington, D.C. It was D.C.'s oldest brokerage, Folder, Nolan, Fleming, Douglas, where I started doing account management for two brokers that I work with. I went and got licensed, got my Series 7, and I help people put together investment plans and help trading stocks and bonds and other investment vehicles in their accounts. Did that for a few years and then left there and got into the consulting world. Worked for a few consulting businesses and then got into the telecom industry. Um, all of it is it's all built. All of the things that I've done have been around communications and making sure that people, whether they're clients or business constituents, are updated on status, keeping them informed throughout the process, which I think is critically important to the real estate business. And then also from you know after leaving telecom, that's when I started into real estate. Did that about 5 years ago. Made the jump. It was a big scary jump, going from guaranteed paychecks every 2 weeks, guaranteed bonus every year, to being out here running my own business. But it's actually been tremendously rewarding. In that time, I had a daughter about 4 years ago. So I've been able to really spend as much time with her as I possibly can, which would not have been possible had I remained in a more traditional uh, place of work. Real estate's always been really important to me. I bought my first house at 24 years old. And so we grew up, I was fortunate that my family gave us a really good financial upbringing, making sure that we were investing and, taking advantage of the market. So learned at a very young age that investing is important and real estate is just another piece of that. So you can have a portfolio of stocks, bonds, fixed income, equity, the rest of it, but real estate's also a giant piece of what you should have in your portfolio. So basically coming full circle after getting into the investment world right out of college, I'm literally kind of just getting back into it, but through the real estate side of things. So it's kind of 360 moment for me to get back in this and help people with what typically is the largest investment of their life, whether it's buying or selling or investing. I'm able to do that here all over Northern Virginia, and I do have partners nationwide as well. So if somebody is moving out of the area, I'm happy to introduce them to a very qualified um, realtor in the area that they're going to. So um, just because it's not Northern Virginia doesn't mean I can't help you. So always make sure you check in with me and I'll
Yeah,
take care
well,
of it.
I consider you as one of the most well-connected human beings I have ever met. So, yeah, if you need to know somebody, just get a hold of John, and I'm sure he knows somebody that you need to know. So, yeah, but speaking that, you're not just in Northern Virginia, and I know this wasn't really on our agenda, but it's something I did read about your Airbnb. So, not only like real estate, do you have some Airbnb
I
listings as
do.
well?
Yeah, I have an Airbnb. It's in Waterford, Virginia. It's at
Okay.
a beautiful flower farm and winery called Hope Flower Farm and Winery. The owner, Holly Chappell's, a dear friend of ours. And so about 3 years ago, we were looking to help monetize the property. My wife had stepped in as an interim COO for her company. Um, as she was dealing with the loss of her husband, my wife stepped in so that she could focus on her family. She has 7 children, and so in stepping in, one of the things that we're trying to do, obviously we're going through COVID, was trying to figure out how does she monetize this 25-acre flower farm and winery. And she has a couple different buildings on that property, one of which is a 3-bed, 1-bath cottage.
Cool.
And so we stood that up. I'd never done an Airbnb before, but I figured it out, learned it, figured out some automation to help with the booking and messaging and setting up the automated lock systems that I have on the house. And it's been a very rewarding experience. I've connected with a lot of people. You know, I've even gotten real estate transactions out of the Airbnb just from being high touch. People reach out to me. They ask, various questions, and I can certainly help them. And in fact, if you're relocating from out of the area and you need a place to stay, look up the Hope Flower Farm and Winery Cottage on Airbnb. Great place
Okay.
to stay if you're searching for a house in Loudon. I can help you out.
Right. Now, is that the only cottage, or are there more than one, places to rent, or is it just one?
It's just one now. We've got another that we're potentially going to bring online. It'll be a smaller place above a garage. It'll be probably good enough for 2 people, but it'll have a shower, bath, small kitchen, and then potentially looking to bring on. They've got a beautiful manor house on the property, built in the 1800s. So looking to potentially bring that one on as well. That'll require some additional updates and upgrades before we can safely put guests in that property.
Right. Well, I'm glad I asked about that because I'm definitely going to look that property up, and who knows, maybe one day I'll just go treat myself to a nice little weekend, getaway and have some wine and go out there and check it out.
Yeah,
So,
you definitely
um
should. I
yeah,
would
but
recommend I would
okay.
recommend doing it in the blooming season because there's just gorgeous, gorgeous fields of flowers.
Okay. All right. Well, as we're talking about, this little cottage in this manor, I'm sure with all of your listings, let's just, get into the construction realm of it. Just because, most of my audience and most of my podcasts are based around construction, even though we talk about everything. I mean, we talk about everything possibly under the sun. And that's why I thought you are a perfect featured guest, because when you meet with a client and you go into their home, or like this Airbnb situation, I'm sure that you have a certain expectation, a certain level of standards that it's going to take for you to list the property, sell the property, make it safe, ready for people to rent it. So let's just dive into that aspect on the construction side a little bit, and your experience on, how often are you calling on contractors or interior designers, and how important is this in your business?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Typically, when I meet with a homeowner that is looking to sell their property, we do a walkthrough. After we figure out their timelines and stuff, we do a walk through the property to make sure that it basically do almost like a visual inspection checklist, looking through the property, what needs work, what needs attention. Could be anything as simple as painting, could potentially need new flooring. Um, new lighting, new light fixtures. It just really depends on recommendations. I'll make a whole list of recommendations, and then we can figure out what that costs. Sometimes I bring a contractor with me when we do that walkthrough. Really kind of depends on how quickly they want to move. And I'll have a contractor put together a list of these are all the things that we talked about. This is the cost of it all. And then we can decide what we want to do, how much they want to invest. They may not have money to invest in the property, and that's okay. And if that's the case, then maybe it's just a real good deep cleaning. Maybe there's a little bit of touch up things that can make a big difference throughout the house. So we just kind of walk through it and go about it that way. So contractors are very important to my business. I have lots that I work with. I have a few really strong go-tos. And the reason they're really strong go-tos is because they answer the phone when I call, they get back to me, they get back to the client, and they're able to put together proposals quickly so that we can get the client informed and we can figure out what we need to do in order to get that property listed. People come to me in all different states, whether it's, hey, I need to sell now, or hey, I'm thinking about it next month, or different things drive the reason why people must sell. I always tell people, if you have thoughts of selling, let's get in touch as quickly as we possibly can, because that'll allow you to take that punch list of recommendations and kind of spread it out throughout time, so you're not biting the bullet and trying to get everything done all at once leading up to selling the property. So you can kind of allow us to schedule the workout.
Right,
Oftentimes the contractors that I'm working with are also extremely busy. They're good, so people are
right.
constantly calling them and hiring for jobs, and so we need to get that scheduled. There could be some scheduling things, aspects that we need to make sure that we're accounting for.
Right. Well, what I'm hearing, because one of my questions was definitely going to be, what makes a contractor stand out? And, is it responsiveness, quality, pricing, attitude? It sounds like responsiveness is like one of most of the most important aspects, because if they are busy scheduling with the client. So with that being said, I mean, if you had something to say to a contractor right now about being responsive, answering your phone, following up on emails, I mean, what would that be?
Yeah, I would just say it's critically important for you to follow up with me. I partner with these guys. I consider them partners for my business. They help me look good. I help them look good, and I help drive business to them. So if you're responsive to me, you do a great job for the client, you'll get more business. I mean, that's plain and simple. I tell people I can line your pockets with money. You just have to be responsive, and you have to be able to get things done in a good amount of time. And hey, listen, if you can't get it done, or it's not a project you're interested in, that's fine. Just let me know and I'll move on to the next contractor. I'd rather have you be upfront and honest about your scheduling and or your ability to do the work than to just kind of brush it off and not do it. If you don't want to do it, just let's be transparent. Don't do it. I'll move on to the next one.
Right. I
So
think it's the being non-communicative, that's one of the most frustrating things for me. It's like you feel like you get ghosted, and nobody wants to feel that way. Like you said, I mean, if they're busy, they're not interested, the job's too small, too big, they don't have time. Guys, I mean, just it takes 5 minutes to pick up the phone and communicate that. It also builds trust, I feel, and that's another thing I was going to ask you is, what makes a contractor a trusted contractor, in your opinion?
So typically, I don't refer people that I haven't had work done in my house. So I,
Okay.
I like to kind of try before I promote kind of scenario. Hey, come into my house. Let's do a project in my house. And from that, I can get an idea of, are they clean? Do they clean up after themselves? How do they leave the house when they're leaving for the day? Um, how do they feel? How does my wife and kids feel around this person? Are they good with my dog? That kind of
Right.
stuff. And typically, I like to try them out in my house before I go ahead and promote them out to another client of mine. And so that's kind of what works. One other point I want to say about contractors: a lot of these guys are small business and don't have fancy answering systems and client and overhead office staff and stuff that are working for them. So I do give them some leeway, knowing that they are bidding jobs. Some of them are even working the jobs, and then some of them have to do the billing and stuff after hours. So I do give a little bit of leeway for it, but a quick response, like if I typically before I do an introduction, I'll reach out and say, hey, via text, say, hey, do you have time to do this? I think this is the project. If you don't, fine, no problem. Just shoot me a text back. Don't have time to do it right now, or I'm booked out solid for 3 months. Okay, that's fine. I'll go to the next guy. But just a simple text back. It just goes a long way. I don't want to pair somebody up and just have a bad experience from the jump.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I think everybody feels that same way. And, so I have one other question about, contractors and, frustrations, like when it comes to timelines. Can you give us an example of maybe something that happened, that's just like non-negotiable so that, contractors out there know, yes, we're going to give them grace. Yes, there is some leeway, but let's just, hear like a non-negotiable when you are working with contractors.
Um, So I would say an example of that would be if I've made an introduction to somebody, I've reached out to the contractor and I've said, hey, listen, like I've got a job I'd like to send your way. This is kind of what my understanding of it is. Do you have time? Sure, no problem. Have time. I introduce them to that person, whether it's my client or somebody else. I make introductions to people all the time. It doesn't have to be a property that I'm particularly working on. People just know that I've been here locally. I actually have a hashtag your local guy. And so people are reaching out to me all the time that are not trying to sell their houses. Hey, do you have a plumber? Hey, do you have a painter? Hey, do you have this? So, but if I make an introduction, I put you in touch with somebody, I expect you to follow up. And if you don't follow up, or I get a call back from them and saying, hey, I talked to them, but they haven't reached back out. I'll reach back out one time and say, hey, Mr. Smith said he didn't hear from you. What's going on? Are you interested? Are you not? Like, follow up. And
Right.
if you don't, then that would, put you pretty, it'll put you down on the list from who I'm going to reach out to the next time. And I'm always meeting new contractors through my 52 lunches. I'm meeting new people that are out there. And so, I love the people that I work with, but at some time, if you can't do it, or you're going through a rough patch in life, or you're too busy or whatever, that's fine. I'll move on to the next one.
Right. So, yeah, I think everybody is replaceable. It's unfortunate to say that. And, having been living in the Northern Virginia area for quite some time now, I mean, contractors are a dime a dozen. I mean, they're everywhere. And
Yeah,
so it's not like you can't be introduced or find someone else. I mean, with all the networking that you do, and there's always people, new business owners that are just popping up that really need the business and are eager, to do good work and would love to be partnered with someone like yourself. So, if I have my 2 cents, I would say follow up is probably one of the most important skills that anybody can have in business.
totally. I like to give my clients a frictionless experience. And so that means anybody that we're working with on the transaction, whether it's contractors, myself, my transaction coordinator, or anybody else that's involved in the process, frictionless, meaning just make it smooth, make it easy, and make people have a great experience. You always want to deliver a great experience so that people will refer you again and again and again.
Right, right. Well, as we're educating contractors, about the real estate market and a little bit of what your expectations are from now, this is just from a listing standpoint. Like, what upgrades or fixes, in the home do you find moves the needle the fastest? Is there one in particular? I mean, I'm thinking in my brain what I think it is, but I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
right.
Well, stick your thumb up if what I say is exactly what you think. This has been the same. This has been same for years and years and years. Kitchens and bathrooms. Those are always two of the biggest ones. And
Yeah.
kitchen, I think, being number one. I mean, everybody gathers in the kitchen. If you're ever at a party, it doesn't matter how many houses or how many rooms you have in your house.
Yep.
The kitchen is always where people are gathering, and you can move food out of the kitchen into another room, but everybody still gathers in the kitchen. And so people like to have that room, you know, um, really looking nice and a place that's it's easy to walk around and be with your family.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean if you're prepping your house, you need to do a full on gut job remodel. There's some very simple things that you can do to make your kitchen stand out and be a little bit more appealing. Whether it's painting cabinets, there's a lot of great companies out there that will paint your cabinets. If the cabinet design is something that is not too dated. I'm talking clean lines, Quaker style cabinet doors, that type of thing. You can easily put a coat of paint on them. I'd highly recommend using a qualified professional to do that. I've seen a lot of jobs that are just full of drips, and you basically should have left it the way it was prior to painting it. You can do countertops. They have quartz countertops, many other types of countertops that would do a nice update to the kitchen and isn't overly expensive. Paint's another one. Paint throughout the house, but paint in the kitchen. You know, a lot of the buyers want to see houses that are neutral in color. And so I know for longest time, agreeable gray was what everybody used. I think people are more trending into some whites and things like that. And then maybe you have another room that's not white. Maybe you color drench it, which just basically means everything top to bottom, ceiling, trim, walls, everything the same color. And
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool trend that we've seen over the past couple of years. But yeah, kitchens,
I was right
baths,
on the
and if you
money.
don't
That
have
was
money to do any of that stuff, you are right on money. And if you don't have money to do those things, that's fine too. Clean. Make sure the place is clean. Clean out your drawers. Clean out your baseboards. Clean, clean, clean. I cannot stress that enough. You can tell when a property's been cared for and when a property hasn't been cared for. And I go into a lot of houses, and there can be
right.
something that everything is dated, but it's clean and it's been well cared for, and it shows very, very much so.
Right. Yeah. But like I said, so I was right on the money, being a Cajun girl from New Orleans, I love to cook and I come from a big family. So, and I love to entertain. I like to have a big, open, spacious kitchen, countertops. I want to think that, appliances and lighting would also be something, that is important. We don't want to be cooking on old, used appliances from, the 2000s. I mean, now everyone's using these, I mean, everything is nice and bright and I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but uh God, I don't know why I can't what is the color now that everything all the new appliances are? I'm just drawing a blank. Stainless steel.
Stainless steel?
Yeah, it's stainless
Yeah.
steel everywhere. It's very nice. And but yeah, I can't express enough what clean will do and how that will make people feel comfortable as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then
And your
bathrooms.
lighting, yeah,
But
bathrooms.
no,
Same
go to the
thing
lighting.
with lighting. Yeah, lighting throughout the house. So kitchen,
Okay.
install some recessed lighting. Depending on when your house was built, many houses weren't originally built with recessed lighting. They had, a pendant lamp somewhere, or they have lights that are on a switch with a lamp. And so, like, I know our house was built in the early '80s. It had no recessed lighting when we moved in, with the exception of the kitchen, which had been updated in I think around 2010. So they put some recessed lighting in, but we were pulled all that out, put in LED lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and then installed a ton of recessed lighting throughout the house, just because it's much nicer to turn on a light and have nice recessed lights come on a dimmer, and you can adjust the mood of the room and how people feel just by being able to adjust the either the coloring or just the lighting, how bright or how dark it is. So that's critically important. And then to the bathrooms, um, again, clean, new lighting, new mirrors, that type of stuff goes a long way. And it's really not that expensive to do. You can really kind of zhuzh the place up a little bit just by updating the lighting and mirrors. And then, simple things, towel bars, toilet paper holders, get it all matching, make sure that
Right.
it all looks cohesive.
Right. And that stuff is not that expensive. It's aesthetic things. But when you change all of these out and everything is bright and clean and it matches and it's new, I think that is definitely more appealing. And I know we're talking about interior, but let's just talk about the exterior of a house for a minute. So, have you ever been to a home where, the curb appeal is just has none, right? Like the yard is not kept up and the
Yeah.
landscaping, but you go into the inside of the home and it's just fabulous, perfect. So, what would you
Yeah.
say as far as curb appeal on the exterior of the house? How important is that? And how often do you have to work with landscapers and those type of people?
Yeah, I mean, curb appeal is extremely important. It's the first thing that people see when they pull up to your house. They say don't judge a book by its cover, and don't necessarily judge a person by how they're dressed, and you see them walking down the street and stuff. But like, let's be honest, that happens, right? And so you
Right.
kind of always want to put your best foot forward and showing, and like from the minute you walk up to the house, you need to capture the emotion, right? If you're somebody's pulling up to the house, the driveway's full of cracks, has weeds growing through it, the walkway is unkempt, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to. You're already starting to build a list inside your head of what are the things that I need to do to make this house livable for me and my family. I got to redo the driveway. oh, the grass looks terrible. I'm going to have to get a lawn service out here to fertilize and make the grass look nice. There's no flowers. People, there, no flowers. The bushes are all uh, just out of whack. Curb appeal's huge, and making sure that the front door is looking nice. Make sure that if there's like stickers and stuff all over like a glass storm door, you want to pull all that stuff off. You're really trying to eliminate the perceived projects of whoever's coming to walk through your home. So just trying to make things tidy. If you've got, you know, old cars or something like that, just try to make everything look as tidy as you possibly
Right.
can, especially while you're on the market. And we can
Right.
work with landscapers. I've got some good local landscapers that have done some really nice cleanup jobs for listings, and people have been very happy with them. They'll come out and knock it out. You can say that you're going to do it yourself, but the reality is you're not going to get it done in an efficient manner. And sometimes the speed to get your house ready for listing is more important than you saving a dollar to try and do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's face it. I mean, a landscaper crew comes out, they might have 5 to 10 guys. They're going to be there
Yeah.
a day at the most, and they're going to get, it done what would take you weeks and weeks because you have to work. Then there might be weather implemented, that weather's not that great, and, you have your family. So sometimes it does pay just to, put the money on the table, get it done, and you're probably going to get more for your house, I would think, because it's professionally done and it's going to look great.
Yep, correct. It's done right, and that's yeah. I was almost forced into doing it because I had a bicep injury a few years ago. I was always a DIY mulch guy, doing it myself. Get a trunkload of mulch dumped in the driveway, and then run around the yard after edging the beds and dumping mulch. But that injury made me unable to do it that year, and I paid for it. It really wasn't that expensive, and I said, you know what, I'm never doing mulch ever again. So I have my
Right.
guy come in and do it every year. Spring, I'll have them come in spring and fall, come in and knock it out. Makes the yard look much nicer. And I tell you, pulling up to your house and I didn't have to lift a finger was probably one of the best investments I made in the house. And
I
my
can
wife was great.
imagine.
She didn't have to listen
Yeah.
to me complain.
Well, I feel the same way when I come to a clean house and it smells like bleach and that really crisp, just clean smell. And I
Yep.
was at work all day and I didn't have to clean it, and the toilet bowl was
Yeah.
sparkling and the cleaning lady came
Hmm.
and I have new sheets on my bed. I was like, oh my God, why have I been trying to do this on weekends, just killing myself when it only cost me $100? I mean, it was worth
Yes.
every penny of it. So, yeah, good,
Absolutely.
good
Absolutely.
advice. So let's just talk
Yeah.
about, initiating, like, growing relationships. Because like I said, I mean, you're one of the best connectors, you're a relationship guy, whether it's with your clients, your contractors. We're going to stay on the contractors just a little bit longer and then we're going to jump into the next topic. But I want to ask you, what advice would you give a contractor who wants to get on the radar of like agents like you? Because I go to a lot of BNI networking events, chamber, home services events. And I mean, a lot of these contractors, you'll hear them say all the time, well, my ideal partner, would be a real estate agent. So what advice can you give them to, get on your radar or any real estate agent's radar? How do they do that? How do they build that relationship?
Yeah, I'd say, I'm always out personally. I'm always out networking, talking to people. Whether it's I could be out to dinner with my family. I could be last Friday, for instance, I went and worked with my wife at a local restaurant. We like to support local everything, so we were working at a local restaurant. Ended up meeting a gentleman there who's also an entrepreneur. We started chatting for a while. So I'm constantly looking for opportunities to chat with people. If you are a contractor, you should be doing the same thing. You should be looking for opportunities to chat with people, and every now and then they'll throw a little bit of a nugget in there as to things that they're if you're actually sitting down talking and you're making good connection, you're not just talking about the weather. You can probably start to understand who this person is and potentially get in touch with them and get business that way. But build an authentic relationship first. Don't just come in and go after the business. You can always invite people out to lunch. So I've had a number of people reach out to me just via Facebook. They've seen comments, they've seen me commenting on other people's posts. They've seen me promoting and supporting other businesses. I often have people on Facebook who will make a post about their business. I'll share it out there and say, hey, check out this locally owned business. doing big things. If you want a personal introduction, let me know. So just give, just get into the community and give. I mean, there's plenty of networking groups online that you can be part of, but also just in general. When you see people that are doing things, reach out, compliment them, um, and just promote and share other local small businesses, and that goodness will come back to you. And just
I
just keep
can't agree
giving and
more.
give without just give without any expectation. Just keep doing it, and eventually it will come back to you.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe it
so
comes
those are
full
good things.
circle. Yeah.
Totally, 100%. Another thing is, a lot of times, I'm referring people all the time just because that's what I do. Before I was in the real estate
Mhm.
business, I was constantly the guy that people would call looking for referrals, just because when you've lived here for 46 years, you know a lot of people.
Right.
So I was always that guy anyway. So I will continue to always do that. But one thing that would be nice is if you're working the contractor, maybe there's a time for some reciprocal business, right? So if
Okay.
I'm referring you a lot of work and a lot of leads, when it comes time for your parent or your friend or yourself even to buy or sell a house, think about who's been sending you business. Think about who is pouring into your business and then help pour back into theirs. So that's kind of
For sure.
would be nice. I mean, I know not everybody's looking to buy or sell or whatever, but think about who are you talking to? As you're talking to clients about selling your product or your service, are they buying it because they're thinking about selling their house? Maybe not
Right.
today, maybe in 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Let them know that, hey, I've got some really great realtor friends that I would highly recommend you talk to when it comes time for you to sell your house. I'd be happy to introduce them to you now or in the future. And so giving that reciprocal business is nice. I mean, I can, like I said, I can line people's pockets with money, keep them busy with all sorts of work in and around clients' house, and then also people's house that I know. Just keep that line of communication open, and know that it would be nice to share work back and forth with each other.
Right. Well, I'm going to hit on the relationship again and tell a little story because, most people that are watching have no idea how I met John. Well, as he was saying, sometimes you're just out in public and you're in restaurants or you're in places where you have an opportunity to talk to someone. And so I too live in Fairfax Station, and we just happened to be at a local restaurant, one of my favorites. And I'll tell you, anybody in Northern Virginia, Villaggio Trattoria, it's downtown Clifton. It's one of my favorite places. And it was actually this time last year. And, I was by myself. My daughter was off working or whatever. And I thought, well, I'm going to go have some nice dinner, have me a cocktail, sit at the bar. And lo and behold, John and his beautiful wife were sitting right next to me. And, being the little social bug that I am, we just started chatting and we just talked, while we were having dinner. I told him a little bit about myself. I mean, I was still working full time in the construction industry, getting up at 4 a.m., going to the grind, but I did let him know about my digital marketing company and, things that were going on. And John gave me his business card, and then I learned about his wife, and we have children that are the same age. So, I mean, there were a lot of things that we talked about. It wasn't just business, but we built, this connection. And so John gave me his business card, and I told him this story when I reconnected with him in May. I carried this card around for like ever, and I was like, I don't know why he made such an impact on me. But I could just really tell that him and his wife were just very genuine people, very well connected, in this area. And so when I quit my job, John was one of the first people that I reached out to because I was pretty much in desperation. I'm from Texas. I've, been raising my daughter. I've been, going to work every day. Like I really don't have a social network. I don't know, business owners. Like, what do I do? And he took the time to, get on a Zoom call with me, and we talked. And the next thing I know, he had me connected to, a sister-in-law, and then that person connected me. I mean, and it just exploded. And then, we connected on LinkedIn, and then, months and months later, I'm at networking events and I'm finding out that, his same circle of people are people now that I have met through other avenues. And so it's just been great to, have that relationship with him. And, I just want to tell people, just get out there, talk, tell stories. It doesn't always have to be about the money or about wanting to get that business right away, because you really need to build the relationships, because people only want to work with those people that they know and trust. And sometimes it takes a little while to, earn that trust and build that relationship. So do that, and it will all come full circle to you, I promise. Anything else you want to touch on, John, on relationships? Because
Yeah. So
I just,
yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words, and I do remember when we met at Villaggio, and it's one of those things that, you talk to a lot of people down there, and many people that you never hear from ever again, but like you had reached out, and one of the things that I just think is really neat is I have a program called 52 Lunches, where I take other small business owners or people who have a cause, or just interesting people, or anybody who just wants to go grab lunch. I take them out to lunch, and we sit down and we have a meal, and there's just a connection that happens when you're sitting across or side by side, if you're at a bar, that you have over a meal. You get to talk more, you can deep dive. You're not surface level. Again, you're not talking about the weather, you're not talking about sports, you're really talking about who are you, and how's your family, and how are you doing, how are you feeling, and then you figure out, is there anything that I can help you with, and it just really starts to form a bond with that person that you can't get by just going to a networking event, where there's 30 people that you talk to everybody for 30 seconds. You really sit down one-on-one for over an hour and spend time connecting, and a lot of times it leads to vulnerable conversations. It leads to things. Sometimes people are struggling. If there's something that I can do to help that person, I'm happy to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, like for me, it's all about the people. Help
mhm.
as many people as you possibly can. um, and again, if it comes to business, that's great, but at the end of the day, like, we all need to take better care of one another and help people out when they're struggling. Everybody could use a hand every now and then. There's nobody out there that cannot. So continue to network, talk to people, whether it's the greeter at Walmart, or the person at Costco that checks the ID when you go in. Use every single opportunity to help. I mean, even like, I find myself a lot of times right now, especially while it's cold, go to Costco, you see an older person with a ton of stuff in their cart, cases of water. I'll help put the stuff in the car and then take the cart back to the cart corral. Get the
Right.
person, and people are, I think in Northern Virginia it's a little funny because people aren't used to that, like, somebody actually helping like that all
Hmm.
the time, which I'd like to change the narrative. Like, it's normal. I remember several years ago we went with we were on a road trip to Florida, and there was an older gentleman who held the door open for my daughters. And we got back in the car, like, oh, that guy was creepy. He was asking how our day was, and this, that, and the other. And I thought to myself, that's normal. That shouldn't be creepy behavior. Asking how your day is, that's Southern hospitality. And I wish that we could return to
Have
the
more of
level of
that.
that decency around here, where we, yeah, hold the door open for somebody, help them take their cart back to the cart corral. Just small little things that can make a massive difference in somebody else's life. You have no idea what somebody's going through at that particular time, and just showing the slightest bit of interest or care could really change the trajectory of that person's day,
Yep.
life, and even more.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, it just takes a few seconds to be kind and to be a giver instead of a taker. So, I agree 100%. Okay, well, let's just move on. We're going to move into marketing, and so we're going to have some AI discussions here. I think that's going to be fun. So, how are you, John, marketing, currently yourself to attract listings? And I know, we talked about referrals. Let's get off of that. Let's get off the relationships. Let's
Yeah.
really dive into the marketing, aspect, using AI, using social media, your website, your Google business profile. Let's just talk about that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna, ask you, what are you currently doing, to market yourself to where people are calling you that are not coming from referrals?
Yeah. I need to do more. That's the bottom line. I do definitely need to implement more. Most of my business, I would say, like 98 to 99% of it is coming from referrals. And
Okay.
so, which is great. That's awesome. But not everybody has a network that I have, and not everybody puts themselves out there like I do. So, I would like to implement some more automation in my business, and connect with more people. But also, I also don't. want to have so much business that I can't give clients the really kind of the high level of touch that I like to give my clients. I like to make sure that they know that I'm accessible. If I have too many things, like say, you can do 15 things half-assed, you can do, 8 things really great. I'd rather do things really great and provide a great experience for my clients. So sometimes bringing in more doesn't necessarily work out for me, but there are some things that like that. I do use some drip campaign type stuff that is all automated through my CRM. So
Like
that is
email?
some of the stuff that I do.
Is that an email
Email, yeah,
campaign?
emails,
Okay.
email campaign, and then I also have a platform called Real Scout that does a lot of kind of auto nurturing people that are considering buying or selling. They can go in and sign up for a home value alert, which will send them a value alert on their specific property. It also talk about their neighborhood. What are the properties that are selling? And so I can go in and see that these clients are nurtured. I can go in and see when they're looking at specific properties, and it'll kind of alert me if I start seeing somebody looking a lot. Then I go, hey, it's an indication to me to reach out and see, hey, I see you've been looking at a lot of properties lately. Are you considering? Are you in the market to buy or sell, or is there anything I can help you with? And that would give me a visual indicator to call them and see what they're up to. A lot of people are doing things behind the scenes um, as they're thinking about it, as they're processing it, and then once they think they're finally ready, they reach out. And so I can kind of track that along the way. I've got tons of clients that I still need to get signed up for those home value alerts and neighborhood alerts, so they can
Okay.
kind of start to see what the trends are happening in their neighborhood. So that is an AI piece that I use for that. But I think there's always new opportunities for more AI to come into play. And we got to make sure that for me, I want to make sure that I'm using it responsibly. I don't necessarily want to run into somebody out there and have them be like, hey, that thing that you sent me the other day, and I don't want to be off guard. Like, well, what did I send you?
Right.
There's got to be a good like human component to it, right? Just like if you were to use ChatGPT, like it's great, it can write a lot of things, but sometimes it isn't in your voice, and it kind of
Right.
commingles things and doesn't do things exactly right. So I know
Well, it's
your
all about
services
being
have helped a lot
organized.
of people.
It's all about, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking as you're talking, and it's all about being organized, right? And I mean, if you're going to do a drip campaign, or you're going to use AI, or you're going to like reactivate a database that you've had, you definitely want to know who those clients are, and how it's going to be worded, how it's going to
Mhm.
be approached, and how it's going to land in their inbox or a text message. Because yeah, there's just a lot of people that do have data, that is, contacts that from years and years of doing their business, whether it's bookkeeping or real estate or doctor's offices. And it's just fascinating to me that with AI, we call it database reactivation, because a lot of people are chasing new leads, new contacts, when really, if you just go back into the old database that you've had sitting there for a couple of years, most of these people you haven't talked to in a very long time, if you reached back out to them and started nurturing them, you might be very surprised at the amount of business that you can get from something like that. So,
Yeah, the old saying is there's gold in the old, and that's true. I mean, you have a database of 1,000, 700, 800, 600,000 people, and there's people in there that are transacting, and if they're not transacting, they have friends and family that would likely be transacting. And so if you're just following up with them and giving them some type of value add, it could trigger them to remember, oh yeah, that's the guy that we bought our house with 10 years ago, and he's still out here, and that was a great experience. Let's work with him again. Or um, my parents are aging out of the place that they're at. Let's reach out to him and see what it would look like to get their house prepped and ready for sale. And what is the action? What's the activity in their specific neighborhood? I can help with all those things.
yeah, well, I think I just think it's a very powerful tool. We always want to get new business, yes, but I just think that people really forget about the old customers, from the past. And even if that customer isn't in need of the same service that you maybe gave them 7, 8 years ago, like you said, just by planting that seed again, having those conversations, nurturing, Their neighbors might be putting their house on the market, their boss, their sister, whoever. And it's just, it's a way to reach back out to those people and not having you having to sit down and do it yourself, having AI do it. I think it's just going to be really powerful. And I also agree with what you said, using AI responsibly. That's very important. Not, just throwing it out there and letting it, run on its own. It does still need a human to interact and to put all of these prompts and all of these systems in place. It can't do it on its own. So, yeah. All right. Well, okay. Well, let's just talk about, I guess, I'm just talking about maybe the future, and then we're our final takeaways because we're going on an hour. So we're going to wrap it up here shortly. But let's talk about the real estate market. Let's talk about the future. What's going on with the housing market, now as far as interest rates, buying versus renting. I mean, anything, this is your expertise. So I'm going to give you the floor on this, and let's talk about, buying and selling for 2026.
Yeah, for 2026, the outlook everybody's talking about, and what I'm seeing is there's a lot of buyer interest coming into 2026. This last quarter of 2025 has been a little bit of a challenge with the government shutdown. That has a huge impact here in the DC area, whether it's either government employees or an ancillary business supporting government employees. There's been a lot of impact and uncertainty, and so it's caused buyers to be a little bit more cautious over this last quarter. And so all indications are pointing to 2026 being a tremendous year in real estate. Hopefully, the spring market is real strong, and I think it will be. And interest rates, the Fed has continued to cut rates, which are not a direct impact to mortgage interest rates, but eventually it'll trickle down a little bit to the mortgage interest rates. We're never going to see 3% again unless there's some major catastrophic, world issue like COVID was. But there's a lot of people who will not move because they have these really really small, really low interest rates. So we're also seeing a lot of people that are renting out those houses and then buying new if they're able to do that, because that's a great investment. You're not going to get money lent at 3% or lower probably ever again. So we're seeing that. So there's still a little bit of an inventory issue. Hopefully we're starting to see more people that start, as interest rates, they're in the sixes now, like, low sixes. Hopefully we can get back into something with a five in front. I think that'll trigger a lot of people that were in, in these sub 3% interest rates. At some point you got extra kids, you just have to make a move, or, you're an aging parent, or you just need to get out of the area that you're living in. You want to move somewhere else for whether it's a job opportunity or a cheaper cost of living. So there will be more and more houses, I think, um, hopefully coming up this spring, as people are kind of, looking at interest rates and figuring out, like, okay, this house no longer fits my lifestyle. I have to suck it up and either sell it, or they keep it and move to another house. They'll buy another house at a higher interest rate and then hopefully refinance once interest rates come back down. Healthy interest rate is anywhere between 5 and 7%. So we're in a healthy range. I think people just have, there's just people who are just rate locked on that sub 3% and just don't want to go anywhere. But I think we'll start to see that change this year.
Well, what about for first time buyers? I mean, that don't have a big say, down payment. How do you help them get financed for, I mean, especially in the Virginia market, because it's just so expensive. I mean, just a normal little house is like 700,000, or, I mean, they're just so
Yeah.
expensive. And, what if you have a teacher that's married to, I don't know, just a regular guy? Maybe he's just an HVAC guy that makes, $80,000 a year.
Yeah. So yeah, no doubt, first time home buyers, affordability is a very big deal, and I understand that. And it's unfortunate, just something that you have to deal with. I think there's a couple things um, that I would recommend. There are lenders that do have first time home buyer programs, which will allow you to put a little bit of money down. But talking with a good lender and looking at any of the options that are available to first time home buyers would be a great first step. And I've got lenders that I'd be happy to introduce people to. Just reach out and I'll put you in touch with them. The second thing is there is discussion of a 50-year mortgage possibly coming out. And I don't know all the details of it, but that would allow you to take the term of a normal term of a loan is 30 years. You could break it out over 50 years. A lot of people are up in arms about it, saying, oh, that's just like having a car loan that's 5, 10, 15 years. That's a little bit different. A car is a depreciating asset, whereas your real estate typically is an appreciating asset. So it's a little bit different. And just because you have a 50-year loan doesn't mean you can't pay it off sooner. It will help with
Okay.
affordability now. As long as there's no prepayment penalty on the loan, it'll help with first-time home buyers now to be able to get into houses with a lower monthly payment. Because it all comes down to what is your monthly payment? What are the other expenses that you have in your
Right.
life,
Your
whether you have
income to
children?
ratio
Correct.
type thing.
Right. So I'll be real interested to see where the 50-year mortgage goes if that comes about. The other thing I think first time home buyers have to realize is this may not be your forever house, but it's really
Okay.
important. It's critically important for you to get into a home and start building equity in that home so that in, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you can move into another property and take the equity from the property you currently have. If you're not in a position to hold on to it, rent it out, you can roll that equity into a new property that's closer to what might become your quote unquote forever home. So sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right interest rate, the right everything. It's like, you don't have a crystal ball. You have no idea what's going to happen. And so you just have to make moves. You have to make some movement rather than sitting still. And so I can help talk through those conversations with first time home buyers, walk them through the process, things to look out for. But really, the most important part is to get started. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant it is today. So if you didn't buy your house 20 years ago, get to it today. Let's figure out a plan. Let's work on a plan to get you there. And also, a lot of first time home buyers are actually getting help from their parents. If their parents are in a position to gift them some money, that helps. And then we've also seen a lot of multi generational living starting to come in vogue as well. So mom or dad are ailing, they've got plenty of money tied up in their house with equity, or they have money, or they want to gift you, or potentially they need a place to go. They can no longer take care of the house that they're living in. We've seen a lot of young first time home buyers buying a property that has potential for the parents to be able to move in with them, and that will help with affordability. As a parent, you always want to help your kid. I mean, we do whatever we can to help our kids, and I know as our kids are aging and they're getting older and they're getting into, they graduate college and hopefully get married, get working and all that stuff. My wife and I would certainly want to help them with purchasing a home because, at the end of the day, I'm all about investments, whether it's in the stock market or in real estate. That's how you create wealth, through investments. And so, um, you can kick the $8 a day Starbucks habit to invest in something that will actually appreciate and pay off in the long run. So
Yeah.
as far as rentals go too, I mean, rentals have only gotten more expensive as well. And if you take the math, do the math, sit down someday and multiply your monthly rent times 12 and see what you've put on rent and what you have to show for it. It's great. You don't have to maintain it. You can call your landlord or whoever and have them come take care of it. But you've built no equity, you've built no wealth, you've built nothing other than the flexibility. And for some people, that's worth it. It may not be worth it for
Well,
everybody.
I'm a product of that,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Coming, from Texas, and yeah, I hate to admit it, but I've paid these people probably close to $140,000
yeah. Well,
and
and
over 6 or 7 years, and it was convenient, and it worked for me, and now I'm transitioning to a different journey in my life, and
yeah,
I've got some plans
mhm,
for the future. But I do want to be mobile. I do want to be able to work remotely and go
yeah,
between Texas and Virginia. And so buying a really nice RV travel trailer, I mean, that type of thing, maybe getting me something small, or maybe like you said, one of my daughters has 5 acres. Maybe at some point we could get a little add-on there where we could build, and I could live there part-time or whatever. But I
yeah,
love traveling, and it's worked for me. I'm not saying, I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but yeah, I've spent a lot of money on rent, a lot
yeah.
of money.
Well, I
And
mean, you also take into account your season of life, right? We all have seasons. My kids are young. I need to have them in a house that is, stable, that we're not worried about somebody coming and saying, hey, you got to get out tomorrow. I'm going to sell the house. So like we
Right.
wanted to give our family a good stable base where they didn't have to worry about that. And so as we get older, my wife and I, as the kids are getting older and they're out of the nest, which won't be for a long time because we got a 4-year-old. But
Right.
we may be able to downsize or change up. We might, who knows, do we stay in the area, do we not? But like affordability is just a key issue for everybody in this area. So yeah, you do what you can do and what works for your lifestyle. And if buying's not the answer for you, that's fine too.
Right.
But you
And
just
now I
just
am that empty nester, so it's just me. So I
yeah,
want to be able to move around and not have to pay
exactly.
property taxes and go where I want to go when I want to go. So anyway,
Yeah.
well, I've had a
We
lot of fun.
unfortunately we can't be we can't be as agile as you yet, but someday.
Yeah, someday, but yeah. All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun today. And I just want to, take the time to encourage, everyone listening, especially contractors, designers, make sure you're doing those follow-ups, make sure you're branding yourself, make sure you're getting out there, you're communicating, and you're taking, being reliable, seriously because people that's who they want to work with. And I just want to thank everybody for being a part of the Bold Vision podcast this year. It's been so much fun. I've met so many people, learned so many things, discussed so many different topics. I've just had a wonderful time doing that. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But before I say goodbye, John, why don't you just tell everyone how do they get in touch with you if they're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or they're just looking to get in contact with you because they need some connection. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a number of I'm on all the platforms. I'm on LinkedIn. That's my name, Jonathan Hurley. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I think it's like Jonathan Hurley 57 or something of that nature. You can reach out to me through social platforms. You can call me 703-930-2372, or you can reach me on my website, which is www.hurley-homes.com. Those are some ways you can get in touch with me, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have a small business or you have an interesting charitable cause, or you just want to go grab lunch and have some connection, reach out. Let's do it. I'll get you on my 52 lunches for 2026.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you for supporting the Bold Vision podcast. And this is our last episode for 2025, but we will be back stronger for 2026. And Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you for having me.